So welcome to the Simple Cooking Stream. Today I'm going to be making something fairly easy and quick. I didn't want to make something very complicated. And so since it's a really hot day, at least where I am today, I decided that I'm going to be making a smoothie. So for a smoothie, you really want to make something that's very, you don't want to add too much to it. You kind of want to get things a little kind of balanced in the way things are. And so I kind of pre-cut everything because I'd rather spend time kind of explaining why I'm incorporating things into my smoothie. This is something that I've been making for quite a while, and it's one of my favorite smoothies. It's extremely refreshing, and it really just makes me feel a lot better. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the carrots. So I like adding carrots to a lot of my smoothies. It adds a lot of kind of just a great sweetness to it, but not too sweet since carrots are really not any sweeter than apple. And so I add some carrots in there. This is about 2 small carrots. I peeled them and I cut them into chunks. You always want to cut everything you throw into your blender in the chunks because anything larger than this will actually make your blender work harder, and while it will not mess up your blender, it will kind of mess up the consistency of your smoothie. You want everything to be kind of equal in size. And so carrots are really great. They add a nice color, and they also help just give a nice sweetness to it. The next thing I'm adding is apples. And so apples are pretty a bit finicky when you try to blend them. So if you do not have a blender with basically power that's, I'd say, above 1,000 watts, so anything that you have that's either a Vitamix, a Blendtec, or anything else that's extremely powerful, you're fine using apples. Just decore them, just remove the core out of it and any of the seeds and the stem, and you can blend the entire thing as a whole. However, if you have something a bit weaker, don't worry. All you have to do is just take off the skin when you're cutting the apple, so just make sure you cut the skin off. That's because the skin is really hard to kind of have the blades mulch through and make it uniform in your smoothie, so you won't have something smooth. If you are okay with the skin, go ahead and throw the whole thing in there. You're just going to have a few chunks of skin in there when you're done blending. The next thing I'm going to add is some beets. And beets are extremely great because whenever I add a beet, they honestly give me a huge energy boost whenever I have a smoothie with them. The only downside with beets is that while they are sweet, they have an extremely earthy taste to it, almost to the point where if you're not used to the taste, it will taste just like dirt. So beets are something that you really want to add with something else in order for you to kind of help the flavor and not really bring out more of the dirt flavor to it. So for beets, what you need to do is either you can peel them just like a potato. You'll see that they have this kind of more dirt outside, and on the inside are extremely bright red. So if you don't want to worry about the flavor, you can actually peel these just like a potato, or similar to a potato, you can actually get a brush and under the sink or under some water, just go ahead and scrub it until you know that you've scrubbed the entire outside of the beet to get rid of any bacteria or anything stuck on it. The outside of the beet will give you a lot more nutrients than the inside, but again, if you don't want to worry about the flavor, just go ahead and peel it like a potato. So the next thing that I add into my smoothie is some, not garlic. This is actually ginger. So this is fresh ginger. I'd say these are about an inch piece each. I usually add about an inch piece or more. Especially if I'm adding beets, you actually want to add maybe 2 inches so basically 2 of these 1-inch pieces. And it's the same process. You're just going to go ahead and peel it either with a knife or go ahead and cut it with a potato peeler if you can try. And the whole point is ginger actually, while it's also healthy as well, it's extremely aromatic. And anything aromatic is going to help out a lot with that very pungent taste of the beet. Beet is extremely strong, so you want to kind of pair it with something else that's just as strong. And kind of, you don't want to really mask it, you just want to sort of steer the flavor in another direction. So that's why we add ginger. Ginger helps out a lot with kind of steering that flavor in another direction. That's the point of aromatics and any sort of spices you add to it. Speaking of spices, I have 2 here that I love adding into this type of smoothie. So in here, this is about 1 tablespoon or more of cinnamon. Ground cinnamon preferably. If you have, again, a very strong blender, you can throw a whole stick, but ground is usually easier to come by as well, and it's just easier to measure out. So I throw in some cinnamon because it adds a nice, again, it's a bit of like an earthy, spicy taste to it, and it pairs well with the beet and the carrots and the apples as well. Most people that will bake apples or cook carrots will actually add cinnamon in their recipe, so this is the same kind of thought. You want to add something a bit more spicy, a bit more to complement the flavors. You don't want to mask it, you just want to complement it. And so that's why I add some cinnamon. And you can add more or less, it's up to your liking, but usually I recommend about a tablespoon. The next one is this is about a 1/4 teaspoon to a 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric. So turmeric is a very popular type of spice you can usually see in South Asian cooking. It is extremely, extremely strong, but it also is really, really good for you, and at the best part, it doesn't really overtake any of the ingredients I mentioned from before. So this is something that I recommend adding in. It goes great along with the cinnamon and ginger as your spices, but don't add too much because turmeric is a little stronger than cinnamon and ginger, so you really want to make sure that you kind of go a little bit lower on the amount of this. And another thing that you want to make sure you add is some liquid. Again, if you throw in dry ingredients, you're not really going to have a smoothie. It's just going to be something that's a bit chunky, and it's not really going to be edible unless you want to eat a salad in that way. Go ahead and try it if you'd like to, but any sort of liquid, preferably fruit-based. You can throw water as well if you don't have any of that. I ran out of orange juice actually, so this is actually green juice. It's basically just a mixture of pineapple, cactus, and a few other ingredients, and really it's just a kind of base green juice that I throw in. But you can use orange juice, and preferably I recommend orange juice when you're throwing it in. Anything fruit-based will work, but water is just fine. And one thing I have to bring out, my cameraman will just leave it pointed here, and I'll be right back because this I have to leave frozen. I'll be right back. Okay. Sorry about the wait, but I had to leave this in the freezer because this is one of the most important things to have in your smoothie. And it's the first thing you're going to put at the bottom. So these are bananas, and I freeze bananas because the great thing with bananas is they are pretty much frozen to the point where your blender can easily blend them, but they're still cold enough to help your smoothie not stay into like a juice. It'll help keep it thick. And bananas are great because, again, you can easily store them and keep them in your freezer in a Ziploc bag. Just make sure you peel them first, and you can store as many as you want. They won't go bad in the freezer. But I usually recommend for this kind of recipe to at least add 2 bananas, so it's cold enough and you have it thick enough. The more bananas you add, the thicker it will get and the colder it will get. So now we're just going to go in the order of most dense to least dense of our ingredients. So the bananas are first because they're frozen. Next are our beets because those will need to be blended very well. Next thing are our carrots. Again, just like the beets, they're a root vegetable. They're going to be very tough to blend, so we want those to go as low to the blade when we start. The next thing are our apples and our ginger. Again, a little less dense and a little easier for the blender to go through, so we just want to leave those there. The next thing we're going to add is our dry ingredients. So this is going to be our cinnamon. Just want to throw all that in there. And our turmeric. So we're just going to throw all of that in there as well. Last thing we're going to add is our liquid. Again, you can throw any liquid you want. I recommend orange juice, but you can use water, and if you don't have water, any fruit juice will work. But most people will have water in their homes, so you can go ahead and throw this in here. So this is about 1 cup of liquid. if you want it to be a less thick or a little more thin, just add some more liquid, and I'll actually come with a bit more liquid because my family does enjoy a fairly watery smoothie. So I'm going to actually add an extra cup of liquid, just to make sure that it's nice and watery. Again, the less liquid you add, the more thick your smoothie will become, because the banana will actually help keep it nice and thick. So we're gonna go ahead and blend this, and the way that you blend it, it doesn't matter at the end, but this will assist your blender to not overwork itself. And so I'm using a Vitamix, but most blenders will have multiple settings from low to high, as well as the pulse setting. So when you're looking at these numbers, just imagine that with your blender and just try to translate that over. So again, keep your blender at the lowest setting and go ahead and turn it on. And you're going to see me dial it up slowly, and that's how I want you to kind of follow along if you can. So you want to go nice and slow first to kind of get things start going. You want things to start mixing evenly. And slowly you want to bring it up to about a little more than halfway. So you want to watch the blender, and you want to make sure that every little chunk is blended thoroughly, so just keep an eye on it for a bit. Okay, so again, with the blender that's fairly powerful, it won't have to be that long. But any blender will do, as long as you give it time to thoroughly cut through all of the fruits and vegetables. So go ahead and get your favorite glass, cup, whatever you have, and you can see it comes out nice and thick. Comes out beet red, which is a great color to kind of show off if you ever have people over to see what you've made. But that's about it. That's how you make a smoothie. This is one of my favorite smoothies. I don't know what to call it yet, but for now we'll just call it a beet smoothie. So tune in next week, and hopefully I'll have something else a little bit cold to kind of keep everyone cool during the summer. And everyone make sure you stay safe and have a great week. See you next week.